Welcome to Survivor Scale! I'm H2 Mass, and today I'm ranking every main character in The Descent, where a group of women's simple spelunking trip turns into a desperate scramble to survive when they end up trapped in a cave with underground goblins hungry for flesh. We start the film with bright lights laughing and nice whitewater rafting as Sarah and her friends Beth and Juno enjoy a strong dose of adrenaline. After reaching the end of the rapids, Sarah meets up with her daughter, but Beth reveals some observational skill when she notices Sarah's husband Paul removing Juno's helmet with a suspicious level of intimacy. Oh yeah, they're definitely banging. As the family drives back to the hotel, Paul shows the worst awareness ever by looking away from the road before uttering the most ironic last words in human history.
I'm fine.
So you got your wife and kid in the car, and you turn your whole head away from the road? I don't usually put such a minor character onto the scale, but people have to be held accountable. F tier. Sarah then wakes up in the hospital and starts sprinting like a child who wants you to see their new shoes, only to suddenly collide into Beth, who comforts Sarah as she tells her that her husband and daughter died in the crash. As Sarah breaks down from her terrible tragedy, nobody else cares even one bit, with Juno finding the situation too awkward and walking away without even saying hello to the friend who just lost her family. What a great person. A year later, as they prepare to go spelunking to help recover from the tragedy, Beth drives Sarah to a cabin before meeting up with a group of friends, one of whom doesn't think much of the cave they plan to explore.
It's for tourists, it's not adventure.
After a night of goofy pajamas and bad dreams, the women wake up and take one of horror's most iconic pictures. Juno then leads them to the cave, where they all descend down a big-ass hole without leaving someone behind in case they run into a community of blind goblins and need outside assistance. Oh, do I want to go down there? Hell nah. Y'all stay safe though. As the group moves through the cave, much like a fetus, they eventually encounter a tight hole that they need to squeeze through in order to advance to the next stage. Finally satisfied with some adventure, Holly enters first, leading the way for the rest of the women to follow. Sarah though goes in last, but ends up revealing her poor composure when she gets stuck and begins hyperventilating. Her good friend Beth, however, showcases some compassion as she goes back into the narrow tunnel to give Sarah a pep talk and help her get out. As they move through though, the tunnel begins collapsing and they only barely make it out before it completely closes. Unshaken by the cave's collapse, Rebecca tells them that they have two other exits, but Juno reveals her deception when she admits to lying about the cave system they were going to explore, and that this cave hasn't been mapped out yet. So even though Rebecca informed a rescue team of their expected location, they can't actually wait for them since this isn't the cave Rebecca told them about.
I wanted us all to discover it.
Oh, you're gonna discover it, alright. As Beth reprimands Juno by calling her a selfish cow, Juno tries to defend herself, but instead shows her dastardliness when she attempts to claim Sarah's tragic loss as her own, like losing your secret lover who is cheating on his wife, who happens to be someone you claim to call a friend, even compares to losing your actual husband and daughter. Juno's a real piece of work, man.
She's a piece of work, man.
Exactly. Despite her poor ethics, Juno shows some leadership skills as she guides the group forward in search of a way through the cave system. She then demonstrates some observational ability when she notices an edge and tells Sam to stop moving before she falls into an abyss. Now needing to cross a large gap, Rebecca shows off her resolve and dexterity as she climbs the ceiling and rigs a line so the rest of them can follow. Juno though keeps rushing her like a real asshole.
Come on, Rebecca! Come on, Rebecca!
Juno's a real piece of work, man. After Rebecca finishes the line, the rest of the women follow her, and Juno showcases her boldness by climbing across without the security of one of the ropes so they don't leave behind their already limited resources. Unfortunately though, she slips and falls, but the other women manage to catch her with the only rope still attached to her. After pulling Juno up, the group continues moving through the cave, eventually stumbling across a painting on the wall, at which point Beth demonstrates some deductive ability when she interprets the painting and surmises that the cave has another exit.
You are a fucking genius.
Not sure I'd go that far, but okay. The women then encounter a series of holes, and Juno makes use of a lighter to determine which tunnel has wind blowing through it so they can decide which path leads out of the cave system. Holly, however, shows extreme recklessness as she goes through the tunnel before everyone else and runs towards a bright spot in the dark despite Juno's warnings not to do so, only for Holly to slip and fall into a giant hole. Luckily for her though, Juno grabs her hand, but sadly can't hold on very long, so Holly falls and breaks her leg. The women then find Holly, allowing Rebecca's sister Sam to unleash her medical knowledge as she resets Holly's broken leg. As her friends perform the impromptu procedure, Sarah wanders off and sees a mysterious figure in the distance, but right before Juno appears, the figure vanishes. Of course. Sarah then fails to convince the others that she saw someone, with Juno basically just calling her crazy. Of course. The women then carry Holly through the cave and eventually arrive at a collection of animal bones scattered throughout the ground. Now spooked and in a rush to leave, Juno tries the lighter trick again, but this time the wind doesn't blow. Still thinking a person may be close, Sarah starts screaming, only for some creature to attack Beth and then crawl away. The group then goes through one of the paths, and Sarah shows some awareness as she tells Juno to get rid of the flare so the creature can't track them. That'd be a good idea, if it could see in the first place. Now with very little light, the group continues running, but the creature jumps out again and bites Holly's neck, sending the disabled daredevil overdosed on danger to D-tier. Completely losing their composure and ensuring their eventual demise, the rest of the women run away from each other, and Juno displays some strong melee when she kills the creature after a different one drags away Holly's body. Still in kill mode, Juno hears a noise behind her and attacks without looking, but ends up stabbing Beth right in the throat. Why are you sneaking up on people? Hoping to get a souvenir to commemorate this moment, Beth grabs Juno's necklace before falling to the ground, and Juno, though she didn't mean to stab her friend, shows putrid compassion and just walks away from Beth as she bleeds out and begs Juno not to leave her. Juno's a real piece of work, man. Meanwhile, Sarah finds herself next to a group of creatures feasting on Holly, and though Sarah initially alerts them by gagging at them eating without utensils, she quickly recomposes herself and manages to stay hidden as the creatures return to their meal. Elsewhere, Sam and Rebecca also hide from a creature, staying totally still and silent as it crawls right beside them, with Sam displaying some solid deduction by recognizing that the creature can't see. The pair then continue moving again, only for another creature to jump out and attack them. As Rebecca fights it off, she tells Sam to run away, who shows her cowardice and does just that, only to stumble into Juno, who shows some strong accuracy and melee by throwing a pickaxe at the creature and then snapping its neck right before it kills Rebecca. She may be an ass, but she's got skill. Juno then shows some strong information gathering by asking Sam to examine the creature to learn more about it so they stand a better chance of fighting them. Now knowing the creatures can't see and seem to use echolocation to hunt, Juno refuses to leave her friend behind, so the trio go looking for Sarah. Speaking of which, Sarah then shows some resourcefulness and takes pieces of Holly's clothes to build a torch. With her newfound fire, she finds Beth still alive, but just barely. Snitching, Beth then tells Sarah that Juno left her to die, and then gives her Juno's necklace that has a quote from Paul, letting her know that her husband had been cheating on her with Juno. With all her hope oozing out of her, Beth begs Sarah to kill her, and though she certainly doesn't want to, Sarah eventually decides to bash in her best friend's head with a rock, sending the sneaky spelunker stabbed and stoned to B-tier. As Sarah thinks about her actions, a cave crawler attacks her, but Sarah shows great melee and fights it off without a weapon. Another creature then jumps out, but Sarah shows some resourcefulness by using a nearby bone to kill it. She then demonstrates some impressive composure when she stays motionless as another cave dweller crawls on top of her without noticing Sarah. Now that's nice. After killing the crawler, Sarah calls out for the others, and though Juno tries to go back for her, Rebecca just calls Sarah dead anyway and runs away along with her sister. Juno then sees another group of creatures and, instead of staying quiet, yells for everyone to run. Did you not just learn that these creatures can't see and use sound to sense things around them? Why are you yelling? Having run ahead of the others, Sam stumbles across another cliff and starts climbing across the ceiling. When Juno and Rebecca catch up to Sam, they tell her that she can't make it all the way, but she still decides to keep going, only for a creature to crawl towards her and slit her throat just before she shows some combat prowess and kills it. Rebecca then gets dragged back into a tunnel as a creature begins biting into her stomach, sending the selfish sisters with slits and stomach aches to B tier. As the creature feasts on Rebecca, Juno jumps off the edge and luckily lands in a pool of water. She then begins climbing the wall, only for Sarah to suddenly pull her up into another tunnel. Sarah then asks Juno about the others, making sure to specify if she saw Beth die, but Juno lies and says she did. Say it with me now. Juno's a real piece of work, man. The duo then continue through the cave, with both Juno and Sarah showing some outstanding melee and brutality as they violently kill several crawlers that attack them, going so far as to even bite them and gouge out their eyes. Having completed the first wave, Sarah aggressively stares at Juno before revealing her necklace she got from Beth. Now ready to one-up Juno's villainy, Sarah shows some extreme vindictiveness and stabs Juno in the leg for not only leaving Beth to die, but also piping Paul. And that's why I talk about character relationships. Look, if Juno wasn't such an ass, Sarah probably wouldn't have done that. Though, that was probably more malicious than anything Juno did. Sarah then runs away, forcing Juno to fight off another swarm of creatures on her own. And while she may have been a pretty shitty person, her impressive skill set simply cannot go overlooked, leaving the fake friend with the fear of friendliness in S tier. As Sarah crawls through another tunnel, she falls through a hole, but miraculously finds an exit leading outside before climbing up and escaping the cave system. She then runs to the car and begins driving away, only for her to see the ghost of Juno and then wake up back inside the cave, completely surrounded by crawlers and leaving the wounded widow who wounds women in A tier. But that's it. The average ranking for this cast was B tier. And okay collection of characters. As one of the most well-reviewed horror movies, The Descent did not disappoint, offering a claustrophobic collection of creepiness and the best horror movie set in a cave. Thanks for watching.